In 1971, commercial air travel operated on trust. Passengers could simply buy a ticket and walk straight to their gate without ever opening their bags or passing through a metal detector. On November 24th of that year, a man who called himself Dan Cooper took advantage of that system. He paid cash for a one-way domestic ticket from Portland to Seattle and quietly boarded the aircraft. He was entirely unremarkable. He wore a dark business suit with a black tie, sat calmly in his seat, and held a standard briefcase in his lap. He looked exactly like every other mid-level executive traveling home for the holidays. That total lack of distinguishing features allowed him to walk aboard the plane and execute a hijacking without drawing a single second glance. Mid-flight, he casually caught the attention of the cabin crew and quietly handed a folded paper note to a flight attendant. When she initially ignored it, he leaned in and quietly informed her that the ordinary briefcase resting on his lap contained a live bomb. He then laid out two incredibly specific demands. He wanted $200,000 in cash and exactly 4 parachutes. Those calculated requirements escalated a routine commuter flight into a high-stakes hostage situation, initiating the only unsolved commercial skyjacking in American history. The pilots successfully landed the plane in Seattle, where authorities hurriedly delivered the ransom cash and the requested parachutes to the tarmac. Once the demands were met, Cooper made a tactical choice. He allowed all 36 civilian passengers to disembark, but forced the flight crew to remain on board as his hostages. He ordered the pilots to take the aircraft back into the sky and set a low-altitude course straight south toward Mexico. They were flying directly into a pitch-black, freezing rainstorm over the rugged Pacific Northwest. Forcing a commercial jet into that severe weather meant one of two things. Cooper was a master tactician who knew the storm would ground military pursuit planes, or he was completely ignorant of the lethal elements outside. Somewhere over the forests of Washington state, he did something no one had ever attempted on a commercial flight. He commanded the crew to lower the rear-aft staircase while the plane was moving. Strapped into a parachute and holding the cash, a man in the business suit stepped backward off the stairs, plunging into the freezing, dark abyss. When daylight broke, federal authorities launched a massive manhunt across the treacherous, overgrown terrain directly below the flight path. They scoured the ground for weeks, but recovered absolutely nothing. There was no body, no parachute found, no physical trace of the hijacker. The wilderness absorbed him entirely. A highly publicized crime scene vanished into millions of acres of pine and mud, leaving investigators with an impenetrable void. The trail stayed completely cold until 9 years later, in 1980, when a young boy was digging a fire pit along a riverbank near the Columbia River. This photograph shows what he found buried in the mud. Exactly $5,800 in rotting $20 bills. The serial numbers matched the Cooper ransom. For some investigators, these decaying bundles proved the amateur theory. They argued Cooper died on impact or drowned in the river, his body and the money slowly washing away. But others argued the opposite. A surviving Cooper might have simply lost a small fraction of the money during a violent landing in the trees, successfully escaping with the remaining $194,000. Instead of offering answers, the only physical evidence ever recovered from the jump acts as a permanent, frustrating taunt from the past. As these memorandums show, the FBI generated a mountain of paperwork over 4 decades, scrutinizing over 800 suspects. But despite thousands of files, investigators never found a single piece of hard evidence tying anyone to the man on the plane. Finally, in 2016, the FBI quietly closed the official case file without a single viable lead. We are left with an unresolved paradox. Dan Cooper was either a brilliant tactical paratrooper who pulled off the perfect crime, or a doomed fool who jumped straight to his death. His identity remains a secret, but by leaving behind no trace, he secured his legacy as a modern ghost story, proving that a person can still completely